Hi everyone! Today's palette review is going to be on the Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals palette. This video will have swatches, my thoughts on all of the shadows, as well as 5 different eye looks. Let's kick it off by talking about the packaging. The Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals palette comes with this sort of soft touch, almost rubbery feeling, I guess you could say, coating on top of a cardboard palette. It is very slim, which is fantastic. I love me a cardboard palette. And once you open it, you get your shadows on the inside, obviously, and then a massive mirror. This is the entire size of the palette, and the quality is excellent. Looking at yourself in here, there's like no flaws. There's no warping in this mirror. It's phenomenal. You are getting all of your shade names printed on the inside of this palette, which is fantastic. I always appreciate that. But what's interesting about this is that they've called each column a shade name and then given you 4 different types of finishes. So you have, for example, Memory here, which is a black, but you have it in a matte formula, a sequin formula, a metallic one, and a glitter one. And that's the same for all of them. On a personal level, I have to say how much I appreciate the monochromatic layout of this palette. I find it so enticing. So the cost of the palette is $48 US, and because I had to have it shipped into Canada, I paid an additional $6.95 for shipping, which I think is excellent. Generally, I feel like shipping costs to Canada, if you don't hit some sort of minimum free ship amount, is usually in the $10 to $12 mark, which can really add up over time and really gets me irritated because I cannot stand spending money on shipping fees. So $6.95 felt really reasonable. And on top of that, they pre-charge you taxes, which is fantastic. I wish more brands did this because if we get nailed with customs at the border, it's a minimum charge of $15 plus whatever they happen to rate the product as. So the taxes charge that was pre-added into the Tati Beauty website was only $2.75. That's fantastic. So all of those combined ended up being in total converted to Canadian at $78.35, which feels kind of high, but that's including shipping and including taxes and including the conversion, which was back in January, and I don't know if the rate was better or worse than it is now. So it did end up being a little bit more expensive than I was expecting, but all things said and done, I feel like the taxes and the shipping were very low. You are getting 24 shadows in this palette. The glitters each weigh 0.75 grams, and all the remaining shadows that are not of the glitter formula are 1 gram each. All right, I'm now gonna slide in some swatches so you can see exactly how these shadows look like swatched out on my arm.
Trying to keep my cool. I see what your colors shining through. Yeah, I do. Well, that I do. Is it too much to ask? I don't want.
Okay, let's get into the shadow discussion because I am super excited to talk about this palette. I already said, I believe, that I love how monochromatic this comes across. I love the concept of taking a shade and providing 4 different types of finishes. I think that makes it very cohesive and easy to understand. And for people who may struggle with putting colors together, this makes it a lot easier for them because you can basically take any column and build a look out of it. I realize this is a very neutral palette, and I initially held off on buying it because I didn't figure I really needed any more neutrals in my life. But the more I kept looking at this palette, the more I was intrigued by it. So I ended up buying it on its second launch, when it relaunched. I think it was back in January. And I believe it took about a week to a week and a half to get to me. In playing with this palette, I can't even begin to express how excited I am about the formula of these shadows. They are soft and pigmented and buttery, and the glitters adhere like no other glitter product that I have ever used. So let's first talk about the mattes, which is the bottom row down here. They are buttery, soft, pigmented, blendable, They add so much dimension to a look, and I found that I could use so many of these as crease colors, which initially surprised me because I felt like they were a little bit too dark at first, but I have no problem with Poet, Soothe, Story, and even a little bit of Ritual used as a crease color. They diffuse really easily, so if you are initially worried that you put too much on your brush and then you plop it on your eye and you're like, whoa, there's too much color, don't worry, you can easily blend them out. But you can also layer them to make them even more intense, which is a lovely versatility to a palette where the mattes, I do feel, veer a little bit darker than what I would normally expect. Aura, of course, is that sort of perfect brow bone shade for my skin tone, so I found myself reaching for this shadow a lot. Story over here is a super beautiful orange. I loved using that through the crease. It is so beautiful. The black is also very pigmented, easy to blend, really works to deepen up some looks. Okay, moving on to the Sequin row. This was the formula that I was the most interested in because it seemed interesting, and yet I was pretty skeptical about it because I was initially thinking that they were going to perform like glitters from the past, where it's like a matte base and then there's glitter shot through the formula, which generally speaking behaves like a matte shadow, and then the glitter just all falls down on your face. I didn't really experience that with these shadows, the Sequin formula, but I did find that if you blended them too much or just did too much with your eyeshadow when you were applying them, you could dust away the sequin sort of glitter aspect. So what I would suggest when you're playing with those is try not to overpack your eyeshadow or over blend it if you're using those on the lid, which is how I tended to use them. I am wearing Poet Sequin today on my lid, and it's a purple with like blue glitter flecks shot through it, and I think in the video which you'll see of me putting it on my face, you can see the little flecks really shining through, and I thought that was really cool. That being said, that kind of formula is interesting, but I'm not necessarily sure that I'm in love with it. It behaves fine, it performs nicely, but it's almost not shimmery enough, in my opinion, to use consistently on the lid if you're somebody who does really like a shimmer in that area. But they are interesting and they are fun to play with. My preferred method of using the sequins is putting something shimmery on the inner third or half of the lid, putting the sequin color then beside it, and then putting something a little bit deeper on the outer corner. So it kind of just creates like this shimmer to sequin to matte gradient. That looked really cool. Moving on to the metallic row, I would basically call this the shimmer row. Wow. Wow. They are so smooth. They are so pigmented. They glide on the eye. I would honestly say, unlike any other shimmery shadow I have used in my life, they are that smooth. There's a lot of shimmers that I like and they behave really nicely, but there's something very special about this, and I don't know formulas that well, so I can't say what in that formula is causing it to be so smooth, but they are unreal, like truly just unreal. They apply so nicely, and I have to say that shimmers in general don't really excite me that much. I'm more of a glitter or a matte kind of person, two different ends of the spectrum I realize, but there's something so unique about this shimmer or metallic formula that really got me excited about them. So I was thoroughly enjoying whenever I was using these shadows, and they worked really well as inner corner highlights too, specifically more like Aura over here, and then Soothe, which I had thought would be a little bit too dark, but it actually worked out really well. Okay, now finally I get to talk about the glitter row, which is unreal. Absolutely incredible, stunning, so perfect. There aren't enough good words in my vocabulary to describe just how much I love these glitters. They are pressed glitters, which initially scared me because I've used pressed glitters in the past, but I don't necessarily find that they perform that well. They tend to crease or they sort of drop down on your face, so I was a little bit worried about using these. And wow, my misgivings were completely unwarranted because these are phenomenal. I used them without any kind of glitter primer, no Too Faced glitter glue, nothing even remotely tacky on my lids, and they stayed put. They don't even feel greasy or anything like that. They're a little bit soft, but I don't know what's in that formula that makes it adhere to the eyes. Because I wore this, I think it was one time, all over my lid, and it never budged. I wore it for 14 hours straight, I think it was, and it never moved. It never creased. I'm at a loss. Like, how the heck is that possible? Because glitter that naturally has a little bit of a tackiness to it will generally crease on my eyes. So I was blown away by that. I wore, I think it was Aura all over the lid, and I was just in awe. That shade is phenomenal. It kind of just looks like a taupe in the viewfinder, but it's like a light, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a taupe, I guess you could say, but there's so much purple and green and blue in it. It reflects such gorgeous colors. It's stunning on the eye. I also wore, I think it was Soothe over here on the inner corner of my eye, and it was beautiful. I just put it on with my fingertips. That's my preferred method, and it sticks really well. I tried it with 2 different brushes and like no go. It just was not sticking to my eyes, so definitely use your fingers for them. Today I have Poet, which is the purple one on the inner corner of my eye. Same thing, stayed put, looks phenomenal. I love how much sparkle is in it. And while it does just initially look like a purple mauve tone here, there's actually some blue glitter flecks in there as well. It's so pretty. This palette as a whole is jaw-droppingly good. I am in such awe of not only the quality of the shadows, but also like just the range of colors in here. I wasn't expecting much from those glitters, and right now I want Tati to come out with every single color of the rainbow in not only like the glitter formulas, but also in everything else. I cannot wait to see what else she does with eyeshadows in terms of color collections, because I would love to have a rainbow palette that's like this with different finishes and different columns of color. Oh man, like I am so excited. If I had to pick my favorite shadows in here, I would definitely go with Aura Glitter. That one's phenomenal. Aura Sequin, which is like a cream with pink, purple, and I think there was slightly, a bit of a gold type sequin to it. I'm in love with this purple row. I think that really adds a lot of versatility to this palette, because if you remove that, the palette is neutral. Like, we know it's very neutral, but that adds so much extra dimension and color to it. I really like the orange row because I'm really drawn towards oranges. And the black row is very helpful too if you're really looking to deepen up a look. So, I mean, I'm floored by this thing. I think it was such a good purchase, and I can't wait to see her put out more of this. All right, now that we've discussed the shadows in depth, let's take a look at the 5 different eye looks that I created using this palette. Look number 1 uses Soothe Matte through the crease, beautiful transition color. I then use Ritual Matte through the lower crease and the outer corner, just to sort of deepen it up. I also used a little bit of Poet Matte layered on top, just because I wanted a little bit more purple brought into the mix. I then put Aura Metallic on the inner corner of the eye, and then followed it up by putting Aura Glitter on the lid. This shadow, or glitter rather, is everything to me. I love it so much. I then put Aura Matte on the brow bone, which I did in basically all of the looks that you'll be seeing. For look number 2, I decided to go very dark. I have Soothe Matte through the crease again. I put Memory Sequin on the lid, which has that little bit of a hint of shimmer to it. I feel like it dusted away in this look though, and I think it's just because I played with it a little bit too much. So when you're using the sequin shadows, I really recommend patting them on and then basically leaving them alone. I have Memory Matte through the outer corner and crease. I put Aura on the brow bone, of course, and then followed up with Aura Metallic on the inner corner of the eye. It makes a great inner corner highlight, that shade. For look number 3, I decided to go very orange. I used Story Matte through the crease. I followed up with Story Metallic on the lid, and applying that metallic shadow is such a pleasure. I have to tell you, it is so smooth. I have Story Sequin on the outer half of the lid. This is where I liked doing that sort of metallic into the sequin effect. I have a Ritual Matte on the outer corner of the eye to deepen it up. I then use Soothe Metallic on the inner corner, which actually worked out really well. I wasn't expecting that shadow to be pale enough to use on the inner corner of the eye, but it really did work out. And then of course I have Aura Matte on the brow bone. For look number 4, I decided to go very brown because it's kind of what I steered away from this palette, because I just don't love browns, but I think this one came out really nicely. So I have Soothe Matte through the crease again. I then put Ritual Metallic all over the lid. And again, chef's kiss to the metallics. They are so good. I have a Ritual Sequin on the outer half of the lid, and then I followed it up with Ritual Matte on the very outer corner. I have Aura Matte on the brow bone once again, and then put a little bit of Soothe Glitter on the inner corner of the eye. For today's look, I really wanted to go heavily in with the purple shadows because I really hadn't touched them. So I have Poet Matte through the crease and really buffed that into place. I then put Poet Sequin all over the lid, and you can really see how the blue sequins, or the glitters rather, show up here. They're kind of like reflecting a little bit, and it's quite pretty. I then took Memory Matte and put that on the outer corner of the eye and really deepened up the Poet Matte shade. I love dark outer corner colors, so this worked out for me. And of course I have Aura Matte on the brow bone. For the lower lash line, I used Poet Metallic and layered that with a pencil brush all along the lower lash line. I blew it out with Poet Matte just to really make that blown out eyeshadow look that I'm a huge fan of. And then for the inner corner of the eye, I took my finger into Poet Glitter and just sort of popped that on the inner corner of my eye. These glitters really do stay put the best if you're using them with your finger. I don't feel like a brush is very effective because it basically adhered to the brush and it would never transfer onto my eye. I am really in love with this eyeshadow look. I think it's such a nice thing to have these purples in such a neutral palette, and I'm really pleased with how this one came out. All right, so you've seen swatches, you've seen 5 different eye looks, and you've heard my thoughts on the shadows in the Tati Beauty palette. To sum up this video, I'm in love. I'm in love with the Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals palette, and I want her to come out with so many more of these in different color combinations. I think this is phenomenal. It's not even just good for like a beginner who's getting into neutrals. I have plenty of neutrals and I don't really wear them that often, but there was something about this palette that really drew me towards it. And I am so glad that I picked it up because this thing is fantastic. I love the mattes. I love the metallic ones. The sequin I'm okay-ish on. I don't necessarily need them, but the glitter, holy smokes, like what is going on here? They're fantastic. This was such a good purchase. I am so pleased that I picked this palette up, and she has said that she's going to be coming out with more colorful collections, and honestly, I cannot wait. The formula on this is the best. Like, what else can I say? This is fantastic. I don't really have any complaints about this. I love the cardboard packaging. I love the soft touch thing. I know not everybody likes it because it will get dirty, but I'm not really bothered. Blown away. I am blown away by this palette and I am so excited that I own it. So that's going to be it for my Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals Volume 1 palette. I cannot wait to see more from her. Truly, like just give me all the eyeshadows that you can throw at me, Tati. I will gladly purchase them. So that's going to be it for this review. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much for joining me today and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.
I've been running away from you. I've been trying to keep my